Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to be doing a brief stock analysis for Sony, and this is not so much going to be a deep dive into their financials, but more so just giving my opinion on the company as well as the general outlook for the industry. And in this video I'm more going to focus on the upcoming PlayStation 5 than anything else, and then I'll talk about some other things later in the video. And the first thing I like to do is show the 5-year chart so you can get kind of a longer term growth perspective, and they've done incredible in the last 5 years. They're at about $27 here in the last, about 5 years ago, and they're currently at about $72. So really great growth there, especially for not making any new consoles or anything like that, although they are a little bit hyped up right now with the PS5 coming out. And then this year in March, when the overall market was down, they did dip to about $51, but they've already fully recovered. And then with so many people being at home during the last 6 months or so, people got back into the games that they did earlier in their life, or maybe they've even gotten to video games for the first time ever. And I think a lot more people are going to be playing video games that they have in the last 6 months, and they'll continue playing for years to come. So definitely good for the gaming industry in that sense. And then if we look at the last 4 quarters, we do see strong earnings for the last 2 quarters when the overall market is seeing a huge decline in revenue. But gaming overall did pretty well, so I'm actually surprised revenue isn't a little bit higher. And then there were razor-thin earnings in Q1 of 2020, which is also a little bit odd to me. And before I talk more about the stock, I wanted to mention what I believe is their biggest strength over Microsoft, which is their biggest competitor, and it's that they have by far the best exclusives. Just to name a few here, they have The Last of Us, Spider-Man, God of War. There's also Bloodborne. I mean, there's probably a dozen or more really great heavy hitters from Sony that Microsoft does not have access to and cannot release. Something Sony should be worried about is that the Xbox acquired ZeniMax, which has Bethesda, and Bethesda releases ginormous games with extremely loyal fans, so loyal that they'd probably be willing to buy an Xbox just for an upcoming Fallout or Elder Scrolls game. And that's not even to mention the other companies that come along with Bethesda or the upcoming games that we don't even know about. Starfield we know about, and then there's Elder Scrolls 6. If that is an exclusive to Xbox, that's going to be a huge problem for PS5. Or if Sony has to pay some kind of massive fee that Xbox doesn't have to, that's going to give Microsoft a huge edge over them. And then kind of continuing that point, the Xbox 360 did much better than the PlayStation 3, and then the PlayStation 4 did even better than the Xbox 360 ever did over the Xbox One, but the Xbox One was more expensive by $100. And it really didn't have the specs to justify it. But now if we look at the new generation of consoles coming out, the Xbox has comparable or better specs, and there's a $300 option if you don't need all of the upgrades. And there's also a financing plan for the Xbox that doesn't quite come with the upcoming PlayStation. So I think a lot of what gave the PS4 the competitive edge Microsoft now has. So I would say with the upcoming consoles, Microsoft may have it over PlayStation this time around. And now switching over to Robinhood and Morningstar analyst, they gave it a 92% buy rating, which I normally don't pay much attention to because it could really be pretty much out there, but it also has a strong buy day rating on Yahoo Finance, so it definitely means something. And now I wanted to talk about a few bullish and bearish points by analysts at Morningstar. The first positive point we see here is that while tough competition in the electronics industry continues, they have a very capable management team, and that's kind of a broad point, but they do have great management, I suppose. And then the next one, you've been hearing about virtual reality for years being the huge up-and-coming thing, and although it may be, I think it's still several years out, and it's going to be relatively slow growth compared to what everyone's saying, but Sony is definitely leading in VR, and it's going to be there's going to be breakthroughs in other sorts of media such as movies, music, and sports, but again, I think that's 5, 6, 7 years out. And it's not going to be that long before it's available, but it's probably going to be, more than 5 years until it's actually really widespread popular. And now I wanted to touch on a few negative points. The first one being that digital appliance businesses are extremely competitive, so Sony's not going to be able to generate a big return from them. They're getting most of their return through selling their games through their platform as well as the console itself. And then the next couple of points are talking about image sensors as well as virtual reality. So because of the fluctuating US dollar and Sony not being a US based company, they're going to have trouble with profitability. And then just the last point is that their console and virtual reality are still too expensive, so people will be more interested in an augmented reality experience. And I just don't see that this is a huge talking point right now, and still think it's a ways out before it's really popular like everybody's saying it's going to be. And then I just also wanted to show their research report overview. They gave it a 3 out of 5 star rating, which I'm actually surprised to see since so many analysts gave it a buy rating. No economic moat, I disagree with that, just because of some of the technology they have access to that nobody else does, as well as so many different deals with so many different companies and brands. And then uncertainty high is not really fair either. They're not in any kind of major economic trouble. They have a really strong brand, and Sony's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. And then standard stewardship, they were also just talking about how great the stewardship was with top management. So not really sure why it says standard, but I guess it's more standard than exemplary. I didn't want to go into too much detail just because some people only want to hear about the company while others only want to hear about the consoles coming out, but do leave me a comment down below if you want to hear about anything more specific or hear my opinion on anything related to the company. I make tons of other brief stock analysis videos pretty similar to this one, so be sure to come and check it out. Subscribe for more content, and thank you so much for watching to the end.